Have you ever missed someone so much that for a moment your brain starts convincing you that they were the love of your life, even though deep down you know that the relationship made you feel anxious, made you feel confused, made you feel emotionally exhausted? Maybe you know they did not treat you the way you deserve, and maybe you know that you spend more time questioning whether you stood in this relationship than actually feeling safe with them. But the moment you stop pulling yourself away, your mind suddenly starts replaying every good moment you had with them like it was a romantic movie, and then you start thinking about the chemistry you had with them, the late night conversations you had with them, the way that they made you feel special, and before you know it, you start questioning yourself all over again. You start asking, maybe I overreacted, maybe it was not that bad. So in this video, we're going to talk about the difference between love and attachment, why unhealthy relationships can feel so addictive, and how anxious attachment and avoidant attachment can create painful relationship cycles, and how to know whether you genuinely love someone or whether you are attached to the idea of who they could have been. And by the end of this video, I want you to have more clarity, not just about them, but also about yourself, because sometimes healing does not start when you stop missing someone. Sometimes it starts when you finally understand why you stayed attached for so long. Of course, healthy love can feel exciting. Of course, you have all the butterflies in your belly. You can even feel nervous at the beginning because you care so much about them. But underneath the excitement, there is usually a sense of emotional safety. You don't feel like you are constantly auditioning for basic effort. You do not feel like one wrong message is going to make them disappear. And you don't feel like you have to study their mood every day just to understand where you stand with them. Healthy love really feels like you can be yourself around them. There's no judgment. There's nothing that's going to break that relationship because you guys love each other. While attachment sometimes feels like I need to do everything perfect so I don't lose them. And those two feelings are very different, can bring you different energies, because love normally gives you room for you to breathe, be yourself, where emotional attachment sometimes can really make you feel like you're holding your breath because you are always on edge, like walking in eggshells. This is why so many people confuse intensity with love, because when someone is inconsistent with you, your emotions start feel heavy, and suddenly your whole mind is trying to solve the mystery that they are causing. One day they are warm, affectionate, and even present, and then the next day they are distant, cold. So your brain starts asking, do they still like me? Did I do something wrong? Are they losing interest? Why did they act so different today? And because you are thinking about them all the time, you can genuinely feel like you are deeply in love. But sometimes you are not thinking about them because the connection is healthy. Sometimes you are thinking about them because the connection isn't stable. This is a very important difference, because emotional chaos can feel powerful when you are inside it, but that does not automatically mean it's love. Sometimes what feels like passion is actually uncertainty, and sometimes what feels like chemistry is really your nervous system trying to secure a connection that never felt truly safe. Here is something that I really think more people need to understand, especially if you have been stuck on someone who gave you mixed feelings. Your brain sometimes can feel very comfortable with inconsistent love than consistent love. Not because inconsistent love is better, deeper, or more special, but because unpredictability can make you chase the reward even harder. There is something some people call intimate reinforcement, which basically means that when someone gives you attention sometimes, but not consistently, your brain starts waiting for the next moment. So when they finally text you back properly, or finally act sweet again, or finally make you feel chosen, for a little while, it feels so powerful because you have been craving it. And then when they pull away, you do not just feel sad, you feel desperate to get back back to the version of them because your brain remembers how good it felt when they were loving, present, warm. This is why unhealthy attachments can actually feel so addictive. It is not always because the person was right for you. It is not always because the connection was healthy. Sometimes it is because your brain got used to waiting, hoping, trying, and chasing the next emotional reward. And this is why letting go can feel so painful, because you are not just letting go of the person, you are letting go of the hope that the good version of them would eventually become a permanent version. You are normally grieving the future you imagined, the apology you hoped for, the consistency you thought was coming, and the relationship you believe you could have if they had just loved you properly. That is why you can miss someone who was not even treating you well, because sometimes you are not missing the reality of the relationship, you are missing the possibility of it. And this is where you have to gently ask yourself, do I miss who they actually were, or do I miss who I hope they would become? Because those two things are not the same. One of the clear difference between love and attachment is that love asks you to look at the reality, while attachment keeps trying to survive on potential. Attachment says they could change, while love asks, but who are they consistently showing me they are right now? Attachment normally says, but when it is good, it is really good, while love asks, but how do I feel most of the times in this connection? The questions I ask now, they are very uncomfortable. If keeping someone means lowering your standards, hiding your feelings, ignoring your needs, and accepting behavior that keeps hurting you, then at some point you have to be honest about what the connection is costing you, because your relationship cannot survive on occasionally good moments. We need to understand here that a person can make you laugh and still not be emotionally safe for you. A person can have an amazing chemistry with you and still be inconsistent. A person can care about you in their own way and still not have the maturity, the emotional intelligence, the capacity to love you in the way you need. And this is hard to accept because attachment love focus on the good part. It reminds you of the beautiful moment, the soft moments, the potential, the version of them that made you feel chosen. But then it forgets the anxiety, the confusion, the waiting, the crying, and the way you kept shrinking yourself to keep that connection alive. That is why healing requires honesty, because you cannot move forward from a fantasy if you keep refusing to look at the reality. And the reality is this: healthy love should not require you to become smaller, quieter, or a more anxious version of yourself just to keep someone around you. You need to understand that people often show up in relationships through different attachment styles, and understanding this can help you to make sense of why certain relationships feel so difficult to live. Some people have a secure attachment style, which means they are usually more comfortable with closeness, communication, and emotional intimacy. Some people have an anxious attachment style, which means they might fear abandonment, overthinking changes in behavior. Some people have a more anxious attachment style, which means that they may fear abandonment, overthinking changes in behavior, and need more reassurance when they feel someone becoming distant. And some people have a more avoidant attachment style, which means they might value independence so much that emotionally closeness can feel overwhelming, causing them to pull away when things start to become too vulnerable. This matters because a lot of people think relationship problems are only about love, but sometimes they are also about patterns. And just to give you an example, if one person has anxious attachment and the other has an avoidant attachment, the relationship can easily become a painful cycle where one person keeps chasing closeness and the other person keeps pulling away. The anxious person may feel desperate for reassurance, clarity, consistency, while the avoidant person may feel pressured, overwhelmed, and emotionally crowded. So the more the person reaches, the more the other person draws back. And then the relationship becomes less about love and more about trying to regulate fear. One person is scared of abandonment while the other is scared of being overwhelmed, and without healthy communication, the connection can become a cycle of chasing. This is why you can feel so deeply attached to someone who keeps hurting you because the relationship keeps activating your deepest fears. Fear of not being chosen, fear of not being enough, fear if you stop trying they will disappear. And when those fears are activated, it can feel like love, but sometimes it's not love. Sometimes it's your nervous system trying to win safety from someone who keeps making you feel unsafe. Now, this is something I wish more people understood earlier, because it would save so many people from confusing emotional chaos with a deep connection. Sometimes what you call chemistry is actually anxiety. Now, the butterflies, the obsession, the waiting for their message, the overthinking, the way your mood changes depending on whether they reply or not, all of that can feel like passion when you are in it, but sometimes your body is not saying this is love. Sometimes your body is actually saying this connection does not feel secure. And you need to understand that if you are very used to always having inconsistent love, secure love at first can actually feel very boring, because it does not give you the same dramatic highs and lows that your nervous system has learned to associate with attraction. A secure person might communicate with you clearly, show you consistency, respect your boundaries, and not make you guess how they feel about you. But if you are used to chasing love, that kind of stability might feel very unfamiliar to you. You might even think maybe there is no spark, when in reality your body might simply not be in survival mode anymore. And that is something you need to give yourself the time to understand, because peace can feel boring when chaos is what you are used to. But peace is not the lack of love, and peace is not the lack of chemistry, peace is not the lack of passion. Sometimes peace is the first sign that your nervous system is finally expecting love that does not require you to panic in order to feel connected. So if you are used to love feeling very much like anxiety, do not be surprised if healthy love feels unfamiliar at first. You are not bored, you are learning safety. Another thing we need to talk about is the difference between missing someone and needing them back, because those two things are not always the same. You can miss someone and still know they were not right for you. You can still miss the memories and still remember the pain. You can miss who they were in the beginning and still accept who they become later. This is where most people get trapped, because they think if I miss them, then that must mean I still love them. But missing someone is not always proof of love. Sometimes it is proof of a habit you had. You get used to texting them, thinking about them, waiting for them, checking your phone, hoping they would change, making them part of your emotional routine. So when they are gone, of course your body feels the absence of them. Of course it feels uncomfortable. Of course your mind keeps reaching for what became familiar to you. But absence does not always mean something belongs in your life. Sometimes absence is just withdrawal from the routine, from the fantasy, from the emotional high, from the future you imagine, and the version of yourself that keep hoping. That is why healing in this type of situations can feel very confusing, because your mind can know someone is not good for you while your attachment still craves them. So instead of asking, why do I miss them? Ask yourself, what exactly do I miss about them? Do I miss their actual behavior, or do I miss the attention? Do I miss that they treated me consistently, or do I miss the version of them I created in my head? Do I miss the relationship, or do I miss not feeling alone? Because the answer is not I need them back. Sometimes the answer is I need to come to myself. So how do you know if what you are feeling is attachment rather than healthy love? One of the biggest signs is that you feel addicted to their attention. Even when their behavior is inconsistent, and even when being close to them makes you feel emotionally unstable, you still feel very much attached to their presence, to their attention, to you. You may notice that you keep checking your phone, rereading messages, and feeling like your whole mood depends on whether they have given you reassurance that day. You might also find yourself ignoring the red flags. Now, this is a big one, because everything that they do wrong is like you try to find a good reason as to why they did that, because losing them feels scarier than being hurt by them, which, to be honest, is one of the clearest signs that attachment is making you choose temporary relief over long-term peace. Another sign is that you are more attached to their potential than their actual behaviors. meaning you keep holding on to they might be who they were at the beginning, or even who you believe they were deep down, instead of looking honestly at how they are treating you right now. Another sign is that you might feel like you have to earn their love, prove your worth, be understanding, be more patient, be less emotional, or accept less than you need just to keep the connection from falling apart. The deepest thing with this is that you don't feel chosen, but you also still cannot walk away because part of you believes that if you stop trying, the whole connection will disappear. But I need you to hear this. If the relationship only survives because you are over functioning, over explaining, over giving, over forgiving, and constantly doing the emotional work for both of you, then this is not mutual love. That is emotional labor. And you deserve a connection where you are not the only person trying to keep the relationship alive. And of course, this is just a few, but there is many other signs that can show that this is actually an unhealthy relationship. Now, let's talk about what healthy love actually looks like, because sometimes when you have been used to emotional chaos, healthy love can actually feel very unfamiliar, that you do not even recognize it when you first encounter it. You just need to know that healthy love feels very calm. It's not boring, it's not emotionless, it's not perfect as well, but it's calmer. You feel safe being honest and you feel respected during disagreements. That is like one of the main things. But you also do not feel that your needs are actually inconvenient. You do not have to beg for consistency. You are not scared that one serious conversation will make them disappear. And another thing is that you can actually be vulnerable around this person without feeling like you'll be punished for having your emotions. A healthy love gives you space to still be your own person, with your own goals, with your own friendship, with your own routine, interests, identity, all of that, without the relationship becoming unstable. It does not consume your whole life or make you abandon yourself just to keep the other person comfortable. Instead, healthy love actually helps you to become more yourself. And that is the difference, because love expands you while unhealthy attachment starts to consume you. Love brings you that peace, that comfortability, while attachment brings you panic. And one thing I want to reinforce is that love is mutual effort, while attachment survives on one person trying harder. Now, if you are watching this and realizing, okay, maybe I am attached, I do not want you to shame yourself, because attachment does not mean you are weak or desperate or stupid. Attachment is human, and wanting closeness is also human, and struggling to let go, it's also very normal. The goal is not to become cold or even detached from everyone. The goal is to become honest enough with yourself that you stop calling something love when it is constantly costing your peace. The first step is to separate the person from the fantasy you have created in your head. Write down who they actually were, not just who you hope they would become, but ask yourself whether their actions actually matched their word, whether your needs were respected, and whether you felt calm or anxious every time you were around them. And the reason why I say that is because it's very important, because attachment really likes to edit the story. It shows you the highlights and it hides the pain. So sometimes you have to remind yourself of the full picture, not because you want to hate them, but because you need to stop romanticizing what hurt you. The second step is to stop feeding the attachment. That means that you need to stop checking their social medias, rereading the messages, creating fake scenarios in your head, asking mutual friends about them, or doing little things that keep reopening that wound. And I know that it sounds simple, but it is not always easy, because sometimes checking on them gives you a little bit of relief, even though it keeps you emotionally stuck. But you cannot heal from something you keep emotionally re-entering every day. The third step is to build safety within yourself, because attachment becomes stronger when your whole emotional world revolves around one person. So you have to slowly come back to yourself. Maybe pray, journal, walk, spend time with people who actually care about you, build routines, work on your goals, take care of your body, clean your space. There's a lot of things that you can do, but start reminding yourself that life is bigger than that one connection you have. And don't use all of these things as a distraction, but actually use it in a way to rebuild your true self. And the fourth is very easy, which is to learn your own attachment patterns. There is a book which is attached. I would recommend everyone to read it because it really shows you what attachment styles you could possibly have. And if you want to get more into this, then feel free to get the book. I will leave it in my description. So if this video made you realize something about your past relationships, maybe situationships, or even someone that you are and you feel currently attached to, then comment below what is your situation so I can help you in the best way possible. And if you want more honest conversations about self-worth, healing, emotional intelligence, relationships, and becoming the woman you want to be, then make sure you subscribe to my channels and social medias, because we are not just learning how to move on, we are learning to stop choosing love that costs us ourselves. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.